Welcome to I Wrote That, a podcast for entrepreneurs who are navigating the crazy world of authorship. Whether you're just starting out or already established, we want to help you navigate the publishing world with confidence. My name is Larissa Soehn, and this channel is brought to you by Next Page Publishing. With the help of our industry partners, we bring you the insights on the most challenging, yet most rewarding parts of being an authorpreneur, along with the actionable tips to help you move your brand and your business forward. Don't forget to download your free copy of our book, Author Your Way to Your Next 100K, by visiting nextpagepublishing.net/author-your-way. Let's meet our next guest.
Welcome back to another episode of I Wrote That. My name is Larissa Soehn, and I am your host and CEO of Next Page Publishing. And this year has been a really busy year. And today's guest has actually been a part of that background and a part of that growth and a part of my own author journey for the last year. I want to welcome Mattie Jo Cowsert to the room, to the table, to the experience of being on this podcast. She is an actor, author, and shameless oversharer, which is going to make for a great episode. She is the creator of the popular blog, book, and series God, Sex, and Rich People. And Mattie Jo has appeared on numerous podcasts, including the new, how do you say it, Mattie Jo?
Evangelical.
Thank you. And Faith and Feminism, The Pitch for God, Sex, and Rich People. The TV series won the Audience Choice Award for the Artistic Innovation at the 2024 Yale Innovation Summit. Upon winning the Audience Choice Award, Mattie Jo was invited to be an artist in residence at Maker State Artistic Incubator Program. Ooh, that's a tricky one. An artistic incubator program in partnership with MIT and Yale. Oh my goodness. The pilot for the series has received over 1 million views since its 2024 online release. Despite being an outstanding writer and making things happen and a make things happener, Mattie Jo is most famous back home for being a national ad for erectile dysfunction and medication. My God, I feel like I should have read this bio before we jumped in. Connect with her on Instagram at Mattie Jo Cowsert and Substack at God, Sex, and Rich People. Welcome, Mattie Jo.
Hello, Larissa.
Anytime anyone can fit erectile dysfunction into a bio and then make me say it unknowingly is like a win in my books.
I really gave it to you there. Yeah, no, that's quite the story. But yeah, I had my first commercial job back from the pandemic was for erectile dysfunction medication. And I was like, the way that casting finds me in the strangest of like on-brand roles, it's just like so funny. So yeah, my joke is like, it's me, I'm the cure for erectile dysfunction. But yeah, no, it was just streaming all over like ESPN and whatever. So I was getting messages from guys back home being like, I saw your commercial, like dudes I haven't talked to since high school. I was like, this is great. This is good.
It's like that episode on Friends where Joey gets, I think he's in the herpes commercial. Yeah. Yes. Right. And you're like, oh, what is it? Something Joey's not telling you, but they didn't use his name.
Yes.
I love that for you. So I'm going to give the audience our background on how we started working together. So I recently released a book called Look Up, A Beginner's Guide for the Spiritually Curious. And Mattie Jo, thank you, was my polisher, which is technically a new role in the editing world, in the publishing world. And really what it meant was I was sick and tired of looking at my second draft of the manuscript. I didn't want to do it anymore, but I knew it wasn't quite ready for dev editing yet. And so I brought Mattie Jo in as kind of, the polisher. So she is largely a huge part of how that book came to be and how it hit its final product and hit the shelves. So huge thank you for experimenting in that role for me. But how did you find that process? Because you've been through publishing. You've gone through it with God, Sex, and Rich People, which is a fabulous book, by the way. I've read it cover to cover in, I think, 2 days, which was wonderful.
Oh, thank you.
But how did you find the process of editing in that format?
I loved the polisher role. I definitely know the feeling of like, I cannot look at this writing anymore. Like, it's not even going to be useful because I've read it so many times, or like it just needs a new set of eyes when you're reading your own writing. I mean, you just need someone else to look at it. So I really loved it because it was this nice hybrid. And I know you and I discussed this. It was a nice hybrid of ghostwriting and dev editing, a little bit of both. And you really entrusted me with that. So I really enjoyed it. And I hope that, there are more polishing projects to come, because that was a good way for me to like dip my toes in and not do like a full dev edit, which is like a little bit more involved. Right. But yeah, I loved it.
Yeah. And so like for the people that are listening, you're like, what the heck, that's a polisher. Exactly what Mattie Jo just said. It's that hybrid between a ghostwriter and a dev editor. So in a typical dev editing relationship, you would hand your self-edited manuscript over, and you've probably read it 3 to 4 times at this point. Like, you've done your absolute best, and now you've just hit that spot where you can't take it any further and you need a professional. That's a dev editor. They come in, they make suggestions about how to formulate things, stories to flush out, where to pull back, where to go deeper, but it's really just suggestions. And then it comes back to the author, and it's their responsibility to integrate all those suggestions. And that's what I didn't want to do, because this was my 9th book to be published. I've been through this. I knew my voice was strong enough as an author that it was going to come through for Mattie Jo, that she would, be able to take it and run with it. And I didn't want to spend, the 6 weeks going through dev edits that it was going to take when they came back to fix it up. And so I said, Mattie Jo, go forth and do this, basically. Yeah. And it worked so well. And I think it takes a really special relationship and a certain level of experience on both parts. But when you were working through it, what really stood out to you as like things that you would, like when you would look at an author and be like, no, you need a polisher, not a dev editor?
I think if an author is very experienced in storytelling, so they understand flow of story, they understand when they've hit like their plot points, if you will, they know how to self-edit because they have experience in, they just have a lot of experience in storytelling. What is information that is necessary for the story? What is information that isn't? I think if you have that, if you have a good concept of that, whether it's because, for me, I had been writing stories on the internet for 10 years before my book came out, right? And I had worked with a coach starting in like 2018 to learn how to better remove the superfluous, like extraneous information that you don't really need for a story, right? This is just like a side tangent or whatever. And got really got better at polishing my own work, at being more succinct in my storytelling. And because I had gone through, 3 rounds of edits of my own book, and I'd gone through that process, I knew what to look out for. And so, yeah, I think for authors who are experienced, basically, and can trust themselves to self-edit, they could hand it over to another writer that they really trust and have a polisher role, versus the dev edit where you're going through all of the suggestions and implementing them.
Yeah. I think it's like you said, it's a very special role where, or relationship where both roles have to be writers. They have to have had that experience of not only writing their own manuscript from, word one to end, but have gone through the dev editing process themselves at least a couple of times to understand what that feedback is. Because at the end of the day, you made the changes and basically I just had to go in and accept them. And there was, there was a couple of times where I was like, just accept all. And then I would read it from top to bottom again and I'd change anything if it didn't resonate. I mean, this is not to say that I didn't go back through it and read it again. I know every single word that's in there, but it cut down, honestly, cut down my time as the author who has a lot of other projects on the go as the CEO of Next Page, from 6 weeks down to like a week, I think. And that's just astronomical. We were able to hit our publishing date and stay on track, and even built in some very rare breathing room in one of these projects.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so you have a lot going on, obviously, if your bio didn't say it all. But God, Sex, and Rich People was really the kind of the launch pad into your author career. But what is happening now? Like, what's going on in your world?
Yeah, so the book came out in September of 2024. I had a really amazing launch experience. It was really important to me to, it was such a long time coming with this book. I've been building God, Sex, and Rich People for the last 10 years that I just wanted to have the best launch it could have. So I was fortunately hosted at Neue House in New York City, which is kind of like, it's like a fancy place for like artists and whatever. I'm not a member, but it's a membership. And it was a really beautiful space. And I had a really amazing panel. and over 100 people showed up and we had decent press. And so I was really proud of how that went. And then it was just kind of like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired. I am so tired. And then, because it was like 3 years of working full time and writing that book, and then the press and like taking, PR calls on my lunch breaks and things like that. And in the evenings after I got off work. And so I was just balls to the wall, frankly, for 3 years. And so after the book came out, I told myself I'm taking a reset. And then fortunately, I got laid off. So I got this like celestial sabbatical. Thank you so much, universe. And just let that kind of ride. And then starting in November, I started planning my book tour for January and February. So I did my book tour. I called it Mattie Jo Goes to the Belly of the Beast / Bible Belt tour. So I did Kansas City, St. Louis, Fayetteville, Arkansas, Branson, Missouri, which is my hometown, and I know I'm missing a location. There was another one in there. And that was about a 5-week stint. I did like a sit down in each city. And that was really incredible. That was really, really wonderful. And then after that, took another breather. And I'm actually appearing in Denver at Tattered Cover Bookstore on June 20th at 6:00. So that will be an author talkback signing. And then I've just been continuing to be on podcasts, and I go back to Yale at the end of this month to be a judge in their pitch competition that I was part of last year. And then I'm also in a pitch class on Monday nights to build up the treatment for the God, Sex, and Rich People TV show. So I have the pilot for the TV show, or the proof of concept for the pilot, on YouTube. That's the one that has like over 1 million views, which was like such a surprise. I was not expecting that. I usually put things on YouTube and like 100 views, right? But this one really took off for whatever reason. And I haven't really fully flushed out the series because I've been writing the book. So I did that back in 2021. It went through festivals, yada, yada. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to hold out on releasing it publicly until the book comes out. So now I'm revisiting the TV series, and that goes through July. So by the end of the summer, I will have a full treatment together for the TV show. And then I'll start shopping it around either with producers or streamers, or maybe even end up self-producing it and it becoming like an indie series. I'm leaving that open. I'm not sure exactly what trajectory I'm going to go yet. And then also with this artistic incubator that was mentioned up top with Maker State, we are developing a God, Sex, and Rich People one-woman show. And so it is to tour it around and that be part of the PR for the book. So it's like we have the one-woman show, and then we do a talk back, and then also sell the book. So it's sort of like I have this multimedia brand. I call it a multimedia brand for the evangelical sex experience. And God, Sex, and Rich People is the maiden voyage of that media. We've got the book, we've got the Substack, we've got the TV show, and we've got the one-woman show. And then the vision is to bring on other media projects. So like, for example, this Thursday, I'm going to a reading of a pilot called Free Bretney, which is about an evangelical closeted pastor, or an evangelical closeted pastor. It sounds really generic, but it's so well written. It's very funny. And so I would love to be able to take that on and produce that and get that platformed. Like I want to be able to produce these kinds of stories. So yeah, I sort of have my hand in a lot of different buckets, but that's what's going on over here. And then, of course, I take dev editing stuff here and there. I'm also doing some ghostwriting for a few brands, doing their newsletters and doing their social media. So I also do like social media ads for a wellness company, like as their actor. And I'm also the spokesperson for some courses that are run through my publisher. So, but that's all just like very intermittent and sporadic. It's not super consistent. So the God, Sex, and Rich People stuff is sort of what I'm always working on. And those other things are just things that sort of like come and go. And also, need to find a more consistent source of income, because I've sort of been like I said I've just been sort of like raw dogging the universe on that front for a while, and it's been going well. I've been totally fine. Like I've definitely not been destitute, but I would like to feel a little bit more secure with the stream of income that I have. So, yeah. I know.
So just a few things going on, right? This is what I loved about Mattie Jo. And this is why I was attracted to working with you and to continuing a conversation, to having you back in the podcast and to sending you projects, is because you have that personality of yes first, how later. And that's how, so many entrepreneurships and entrepreneurs and their businesses and their brands get started, is we say yes and then we figure out how later, or we partner with the right who, right? I'm a big fan of who, not how. And at every turn, you have said yes, and then myself included, right? Yes, and then we backtrack and be, okay, how does that fit into what I'm already doing, and how does it actually amplify what I'm already doing and the direction I'm going, or how does it, you get like a 1 degree shift in your direction, but now this direction feels even better, and that's the mark of an entrepreneur. We're going to take a really quick commercial break, but when we come back, I want to talk about like all of those things you just word vomited on us in the best possible way. Even I, as an entrepreneur who also has a yes mindset, was like, oh my God, like my heart tightens. And so I want to talk about that for our audience, because what you're doing is not actually, like, I'm not going to downplay what you're doing, it is, but like you said it before we started recording, and you said it's chaos, but then you recorrect, you're like, no, it's not chaos, it's something else. It's busyness and it's work, but it's momentum. And so I want to talk about how you kind of corral all of that into something that works for you. So we'll be right back with that. This season on I Wrote That, we're not just talking about books, we're giving them to you. My brand new book, Author Your Way, is finally here. And you can download it right now, completely free, at booksunlimited.app. That's booksunlimited.app. Inside, you'll learn how to write a business-boosting book that builds your authority, attracts aligned clients, and grows your income without getting lost in the publishing chaos. And here's the bonus. I've included a powerful resource kit to help you plan and start your book. Just follow the instructions inside the book to unlock it. And while you're there, check out a growing library of free reads, business books, memoirs, fiction, self-help, and more. No paywalls, no subscriptions, just powerful stories and big ideas, freely shared by bold authors. Visit booksunlimited.app and download your next chapter, starting with Author Your Way. Okay, and we're back. And if you saw Mattie Jo in the backstage here, she was giving me the stage countdown, which I love. That was my first like real actor thing, and I loved it. So before the commercial break, Mattie Jo gave us a whole bunch of things that she's working on. TV shows, one-woman shows. She gave us book tours that she went on, media tours, all of these things that when you're an aspiring author or even an established author can sound it can almost make you feel inadequate. Like, oh my God, she's doing all of these things. How could I could never. But the truth is you didn't start with all of those things, right? So when you first started writing God, Sex, and Rich People, what did you think the plan was going to be?
Oh my God, I had no plan. There was no plan. People say, how did you come up with that title? I was like, I did not come up with it. I was just like, what are 4 words that summarize my life right now? This sounds right, and I guess just by the way that I speak, I know how to like land a joke with sentences, which I didn't know. Like when I first started writing, I didn't know I was comedic, and like I was going out for like, Liesel in The Sound of Music in my auditions, like I wasn't going in for comedy roles, and so I didn't know that I was funny, which the worst thing as a funny person is to say that you're funny, but you know what I mean? Like I did not know this was a skill set that I possessed. So I didn't know that I was a writer. I just knew I've been keeping a journal since I was a kid. And so I don't know, like I have some thoughts, maybe people will be interested in hearing them. Because my very first blog post says like, I know every white woman on the internet thinks that her wife is so wildly interesting. And so I'm a bit self-deprecating in that way, but I was really going through something that I thought, honestly, I just wanted to part of it was I wanted people back home to envy me, like, oh, I'm an actor in New York City. My life is so exciting. But also I was angry. I was angry at a lot of the things that I had been taught and was coming to discover were total BS. And so I wanted to share about those discoveries. So there was no real plan at all other than just write, which I think has really, really helped me because I am not or was not precious about my writing. Like I look back on some of it and I'm like, I can't believe anyone thought this was good enough to like read, but they did, and they kept coming back for more. So that's great. But because it's not wonderful, but it was fun and I really enjoyed it. And so I just kept doing it because it was way more fun than auditioning. So it gave me this like creative, fun outlet. And then when I started working with that creative career coach in 2018, which was 3 years after I started the blog, she really encouraged me with my writing. She was like, you're a really good writer. We should really hone in and focus on this. And so it was, very slow. Like at first, for the first 3 years, it was just for fun. I didn't have a writing practice. I was just like, oh, I need to get a blog post out. And I would maybe post like once every 6 weeks. And then once I started working with the career coach, she helped me start to implement like routines and things like that, that I could show up for. And so I started posting more frequently, and it became a lot about like audience building and engaging my audience. So from like 2018 to 2020, there's a lot of audience building via social media. And then by the time 2020 came around, obviously the pandemic hit, and it kind of felt like the right time to start shifting towards a book because people had been, like, oh, you should write a book, and the world shut down. So I actually had a chance to. And my book writing process just began with me doing sprints, writing sprints. Like I would show up in writers' rooms, like virtual writers' rooms, to hold myself accountable and just say, okay, you have to get this many words out today. And it was not a lot of words. It would end up taking me like maybe 20, 30 minutes max to hit the number. And I just did that like every other day. And then, over time, it became what it is now. But it was honestly just very organic by just doing what I enjoyed and putting it out there. Yeah, luckily I have a very accessible voice. Like I write the way that I speak. And so I think people it's easy to consume, I suppose. And so I get a lot of like, reader feedback and engagement. And so that was very encouraging to keep going. But I'm not a social media, I haven't like gone viral. I don't have the numbers really to reflect, I think, like how much work I've put into it. But I've always just come back to the writing is what I love, the storytelling, the joy of like crafting a sentence a certain way, of like crafting the beginning, middle, and end, and where to weave what, and specific words. That is like a painting for me. So that's the part that I really love. And I just always go back to that instead of getting caught up in the, oh, I should be doing more of this or I should be doing more of that. I just kind of follow the joy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really. Yeah. Thank you for highlighting that, because I think that's what people look at. They look at established authors or brand owners or brand reps or whatever you want to call them, and they think it started with that level of success, but it never does. It starts with an idea and then the tenacity to put some momentum behind it. Mm-hmm. And I mean, you went from writing a blog for hobby, for passion, to having a one-woman show and a pilot and a TV series. But that took, I think you said, it's been 7 years, more than that now.
Yeah. I started the blog in 2015, and then I started writing the book in 2020, took a little hiatus from writing the book and sort of like recalibrated how I wanted to move forward with it in 2021. And in 2021 is when I produced and developed the proof of concept. And then I came back to the book in 2022. And then it took me, 2 more years to get the book out and to get the proof of concept into the world. I didn't release that publicly until 3 years after it was filmed. And the series treatment isn't even done. You know, like to your point earlier, I just say yes and then I'll figure it out after. Yeah, I've done things way out of order. Even my publishing journey, I just did it all out of order because I didn't know, but it was a learning experience. And with the one woman show, like I haven't written it, but I am, like my homework for this week is to find contacts of people I could connect with on like college campuses or theaters that I could be posted at. And then the next week of homework is using AI to distill some of my manuscript so that we could get it down to a 90-minute page, right? Or a 90-minute show. See if we can. Turns out we can't, which is good to know. But yeah, or even like reading some of it out loud. I take it by chunks. I have like my big project, like for example, putting together the book tour, or right now the phase is that what I'm really focusing on is the pitch for the TV show. I won't even move into really developing like the guts of the one woman show until the fall when my pitch for the TV show is done. So, but I do still try to do things every week that is contributing to each project in some capacity. But I usually have like the one that's the focus, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think it's, divine timing in a lot of things, right? If we don't push it, it will happen. I mean, we keep that momentum going, right? We keep moving forwards, but we don't push with the desire of making it happen right here, right now. And that's what I love about what you're doing is it's this complex puzzle of overlapping, like it's a Tetris game, right? Like everything fits in where it's going to fit in when it fits. Right. And then when it fits, the line's gone and you make space for the next row. And I really admire that about you and your approach to building the God, Sex, and Rich People brand. So that's very, very wonderful. Okay, we are at time, unfortunately. So my favorite question for my authors and for my guests is, what advice do you have for aspiring authors? Because you mentioned you made some learning. You had some learning along the road. So what would you pass on to people?
The first thing I would say is just start writing. Don't be precious about it. Just start writing and put it out there. Like, no ego, just put it out there. Who cares? Like, see what happens, see what resonates with people, and just practice the art of writing because you love it. Or see if you do love it. Maybe you don't really love it. Maybe you like the idea of writing more than you like actually, putting it out there. I don't know, but just start writing. And then secondly, when it comes to writing a book, I would do your research, ask authors about their experiences on like, what is the difference between self-publishing and hybrid publishing and traditional publishing. They are very different trajectories to getting your book out into the world. And like me, I just did it totally out of order, which is fine. But I would say like take time to ask those questions. And then the third thing is never sign a contract that doesn't give you an advance. Like if you're going with a publisher, have a lawyer look at that and make sure you know everything, because the first publishing offer I got was a very bad offer. And they told me they were kind of like rushing me to sign it. And I was like, I need a lawyer to look at this. And after looking at it, it's like basically they had handed me a contract that, Michelle Obama would get from Penguin Random House, but they were going to be paying me no money, and I would have never seen a cent from my book, and they would have had ancillary rights, so I wouldn't have had the rights to go make my own pilot, go to the TV show, go have the brand that I now own if I had gone with that publisher that wasn't even paying me. So always have a lawyer look at your contracts.
Yes. And I think that's so true. Like traditional publishing has undergone quite the shift in the last decade just to kind of stay competitive compared to hybrid and hybrid and self-publishing. They've a lot. I would even question the integrity of like that particular traditional, like air quote traditional publisher, right? Because that's not at all what traditional publishing is about. Right. But at the end of the day, as a brand owner, you're bang on. Like you want to have something that you can carry on with your legacy. You don't want to give it away. You don't want someone else to have total rights over it. That doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. And it's the same with, with hybrid press too. We have, I think it's a 16-page contract then. And we've started actually, like with new clients, we sit down with them on their onboarding meeting. We go through it line by line because we want you to know what your rights are and where we start and where you stop, kind of a thing. Because you need to know as brand owners what's going to happen with your work when it's done.
Totally. Yes. And there's so much taking advantage of and disempowering authors because they just want to be published. They just want to be published. They just want to, and I was that way too. I had this ego about it. Like, I know we're at time, but I was like, I want to be published by the time I'm 30. Like, I really wanted that accolade. And looking back, I am so glad, going back to your point, I trusted divine timing. I let myself go through the process and I let it be born into the world, the book be born into the world the way that it could in its fullest, instead of just like rushing to get that like egoic accolade. And then I would have been like totally taken advantage of. So
yeah. Anybody that you sign with, whether it's self-publishing, hybrid, or traditional, there are, you don't need to necessarily with self-publishing and hybrid get a literary lawyer. There are, I don't think that's actually what they're called. There's a specific lawyer in the publishing world that will review these contracts for you, and they're worth the money. To Mattie Jo's point, do your due diligence, take the time, and if your publisher's pushing you, they're like, no, they're trying to edge you out of doing that, red flag.
Yeah, immediately. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Excellent. Thank you so much, Mattie Jo. This has been an absolute pleasure. Where can people connect with you so that they can find out more about your erectile dysfunction commercial? No, I'm just kidding.
Yes. Instagram. Yeah, no, Instagram at Mattie Jo Cowsert. So it's MattiJoCowsert. I assume it will be in the show notes. There's the spelling. And then also on Substack. So that's really where you will get a lot of like my freebies. I'm spending less time. I am still on social media, but my writing is on Substack. So Substack, God, Sex, and Rich People. And then, of course, you can get my book anywhere online books are sold. It is in some bookstores. I just don't know which ones. I have no idea. So you can go into bookstores, and if they don't have it, you can request it and they can shelve it. That's actually ideal. But yeah, so God, Sex, and Rich People.
Well, thank you so much.
Yes.
Thanks for tuning in to I Wrote That. Don't forget to download your free copy of Author Your Way to kickstart your journey as an entrepreneur. You'll find the link in today's show notes. And if you enjoyed today's episode, we'd love for you to leave us a review. It helps more listeners like you discover the show. Until next time, happy writing.